If you eliminate all dividends, what happens to one of those or both of those items? Does anything happen to return on equity? No. How about B, the retention ratio? If you eliminate all the dividends, it goes up to 1 or 100%. So if you're retaining the most you could out of your earnings, you're going to grow faster, right? So this implies faster growth because of higher retention. Increasing the target debt-equity ratio. Well, if you increase debt-equity ratio, that increases equity multiplier, that increases ROE. The higher the ROE, the higher the growth rates. If you increase the profit margin, what happens?
Increases ROE.
It increases ROE. Thus, SGR. If you increase TAT, what happens? Remember the DuPont? ROE is profit margin times TAT times equity multiplier. So increasing total asset turnover rate or ratio means you're more efficient with your assets, hence it increases ROE. In fact, it increases both ROE and ROA, hence SGR. Thus, that's the correct answer. All four, everything else being the same, would help increase sustainable growth rates. Profit margin is the amount of net profit earned for every dollar of what? Sales, that's the definition. And we talked about that. In this case, let's see. We know that's not correct. The firm has more current liabilities than it does current assets. No, current ratio of greater than 1 means current assets are higher. Inventory represents more than 50% of the firm's current assets. That is correct. Because inventory over current liabilities is 0.7. Whatever that's left is 0.5. This has nothing to do with those ratios. Cash may or may not be the largest component. In this case, we actually know it's not, but without knowing anything about receivables, we couldn't make that statement to begin with. Each one of the following is a breakdown of the ROE into its 3 component parts. Let me hear different voices. We just talked about this. DuPont. Eli and Sons wants to evaluate its assets to determine its mix of assets has changed over time. To do this, they should compile each one of the financial statements for each of the past few years. What do you think? First of all, since they want to do a comparison over time, it needs to be a common size something, okay? Because firms change their nature over time. So it's going to be either income statement or balance sheet. Since they want to look at the mix of assets, well, those are in the balance sheet. See how logic helps you? I mean, I'm a big Star Trek fan anyway. There's a reason Spock is an important person. Let's copy this. Firm earned $29,000 in net income on sales of $195. Company paid $65.25 in dividends. What's the dividend payout ratio? Somebody calculate it and tell me, please. It's not terribly complicated.
$3.35%.
How did you find that?
The 65.25 divided by the 195,000.
Those numbers don't mean anything to me. What are they?
The cash paid in dividends divided by your net income.
Exactly. That's the definition of dividend payout ratio. So, if this was an exam and you explained it that way, I don't think you would have gotten more than 75% on that question. Because what are those numbers? You just told me numbers. You have to tell me what they are. You know, if you were in a business meeting and you said that, you would have been ridiculed. Why? Because not everybody is aware that those numbers are dividends and net income. You have to assume that your audience doesn't necessarily know what they are. All you have to say, I took the dividends that are 65.25 divided by net income. That is 29,000. That's it. I think you got the wrong number. You divided by 195?
Yeah.
No, that's sales.
Sales, yeah, my bad.
Dividend payout ratio is dividends, not dividends. I think my son would have said that. Divided by net income. Oops. Again, there is only one key to this question, writing down the definition, that's it. Then recognize, what things are. Come on. Work with me. It's a lot easier to do this way. It takes this firm an average of 31 days to sell its inventory, an average of 22 days to collect on the sales of inventory. What is the inventory turnover rate? Okay. Here, you need to recognize what's relevant. Since we're doing an inventory turnover rate, we're gonna have to use the number that's related to inventory, right? That's first number is days sales in inventory. That's 31. Okay? But we know the definition. It's 365 divided by inventory turnover rate. Just turnover. I'm not gonna use, not turnover. There's no autocorrect here. Yesterday I was texting my girlfriend from Vegas about when the flight was gonna leave. I said, we are leaving the gate. But for some reason I wrote, I'm leaving the date. She says, what? So the only thing I don't know is inventory turnover, right? And inventory turnover is 365 over days sales. Inventory. $11.77. If you weren't paying attention, you may have used 22. That's average collection period. It has nothing to do with inventory. I mean, you may or may not have sold things out of the inventory. That's just receivables. Please, guys, I want to converse with a more diverse crowd. I know today's day after Super Bowl, so I'm not gonna hold you on to that. But next week, come to class having read chapter 6, so that we can have good conversations.